Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the COOSPO CS500 GPS cycling computer. Cycling computers have been typically broken up into entry-level, mid-range, and high-end buckets where navigation and map view features have been limited to mid-range or above. COOSPO's new CS500 breaks that trend by offering navigation and map views at a really impressive $90 price point, which is a feature we've never really heard of at the sub-$100 price. In terms of packaging, very simple. You have a nice cardboard box, basic branding and specs on here, and a nice glossy representation of the computer printed right on it. I'll go ahead and open this up. We'll go over the specs of the computer. So again, retail price on this, only $89.90, which is really unheard of, given the fact that you do have navigation on this. It has a 2.5-inch black and white LCD display, and up to 45-hour runtime, and that's with the GPS feature on. You have a USB Type-C charging port, so it makes it really easy to charge. And then a Garmin quarter-turn style mount, which makes it really easy to use with a lot of third-party mounts. As far as what comes with it, here we have the computer itself. You get the user manual, a couple stickers with their catchphrase, all about passion. Comes with a screen protector, which is actually kind of interesting, and it's quite thick. You also have the mount and some other accessories in these little bags. So here you can see the simple handlebar mount. So it's a basic rubber mount with the 4 hooks and then 2 rubber straps to attach it to your handlebar. You have a tether, which you can attach this to prevent it from falling on the ground if you were to have a mount issue. And then a USB Type-C charging cable to recharge the computer. And the nice thing about USB Type-C is by now you already have tons of these cables, so it's really easy to charge this anywhere. Now let's take a look at the weight of the computer. So the computer by itself is 73 grams. And then the handlebar mount, it's a couple pieces of rubber padding, the plastic base, and then the 2 O-rings, which is very light, 10 grams. Visually, the COOSPO CS500 has a compact rectangular profile with rounded corners. The computer has a well-sized 2.5-inch screen with standard bezels above and below it. It's a non-touchscreen design, which means you have 6 physical buttons, which have nice labels printed directly onto it. You can see you have COOSPO branding on the front and then above the screen, which is all pretty standard, and the slightly angled design, which gives us a nice compact look and feel. It's only 14.5 millimeters thick, so pretty thin. And with the 2.5-inch screen, it's still quite compact, so it'll fit in the palm of your hand. In terms of mounting, this uses a standard Garmin mount, which uses the little protruding tabs on each side. And you do a little quarter turn, so 90-degree rotation, and a lock into place on a corresponding base. COOSPO includes that basic handlebar mount, but we'd highly recommend going with an out front mount, which would put this directly in front of your stem, rather than being here on the left or right. And because of the Garmin mount, you can easily purchase that from third party or from COOSPO directly. There's plastic mounts, metal mounts, and tons of options on the market, so it's really nice to use a standard design. You also have a USB Type-C charging port on the bottom of this with this nice rubber cover and a nice modern interface so you can easily charge this on the go. As you would expect at this price point, this is a standard black and white screen. Unlike the sub-$100 computers which use predefined grids, you can see this one actually is a pixelated but fully customizable design. So you can actually do graphics, and you can see the graphics are pixelated, but again, a big improvement over your basic predefined ones. And one of the big reasons this computer actually supports graphical views and map views, which is something you just don't get at this price point. All the buttons are really well labeled, so standard power button, and then the graphics above it, so this is kind of a return button. So go back to the home page. You have a laugh button, play, pause, dedicated up and down, which I really like, so it eliminates kind of the confusion that you get with a lot of computers. So with this one, you just press up and down, and you know you're scrolling up and down in a menu. So if I go into sub menu, you can see it's a standard up and down. And then when you're in the writing view, it's a page swap. So really simple. And then you also have a little tether here. So you can put that tether around this little cutout to secure it onto your bike. Once you turn it on, you can see you have a main home page. This is a non-touchscreen, so you do have to use the buttons, and they're pretty well laid out, up and down. Navigate between the options. You have some basic options, the cycling screen, the navigation screen, training, settings, and that's about it. So it just returns back. And then the other two buttons here, the play and the lap, actually have a label, history and cycling. So you can review some of your history. To enter menus, you do the top right. And then you can go up and down. Here you can see some specific rides we've done. And basic details on there. Obviously you want to use an app to kind of see more data. But at least you can see an idea of what you've done. And then delete it here as well. On the cycling screen, this is a quick shortcut. So that's what's really nice. Like other computers, you can press one button and then jump to the actual screen. And if you have GPS, it should start. Once you have GPS, you'll get a 3, 2, 1 countdown, which is really nice. To go back to the home page, you can press back. Navigation, that's kind of a cool feature here. You can download routes to this, but it's very basic. So you can see one route we've downloaded. It's more of a breadcrumb view, so you can't actually view any of the street names or any details. You'll just basically get turns based on the breadcrumb view. So very basic. So if you're going somewhere very complicated, you can easily get lost. So we don't recommend it for somewhere new, but it's a cool feature, especially at the $90 price point. And you can just download this again from the app. As far as adjustments on the actual device, there's settings. So again, the history, sensors, you can connect sensors. So you just go to add sensor, pick the type or search anything. You can see we've already done the brighten sensor and a radar in the past. You can set the modes. So indoor, outdoor, or add them directly here. You can look at your basic stats. So some of your gender, weight, any of the details that would affect things like the calorie data fields. Under system, you can adjust basic things, backlight. This does have a automatic backlight, which is on by default. So when it's dark, you can see the backlight turns on. So it's pretty effective, it works. You can adjust the brightness. There's other settings, battery saving, calibration, units. So you can do that directly on here. For more of the complicated stuff, you want to use the app. Back is very simple, you press back. So when you're ready to ride, you just press play. Then up and down to navigate between your screens. You can't really customize the layouts without using the app. Obviously, that's a lot harder to do with just buttons. And then when you're done riding, so if I press play again, I will actually start recording. When you're done riding at any time, you can actually look at the home page. So if you press back, this will take you to the home page, which gives you nice information. So GPS signal, battery life, temperature, sensors. So it's nice to have the screen to quickly access, and the time is right up there. So you can quickly check that, as you can't see that on other screens. If you want to pause the ride, you just hit the top right, and that'll give you options to save. You can change routes mid-route, which is kind of nice, but again, this is very basic, no rerouting or any other details. Now let's take a look at some real riding footage. As you can see, the 2.5-inch screen looks pretty nice. It's a black and white screen with non-touchscreen design, so pretty easy to interact with all the separate buttons. We really like the quick shortcuts, like going to home, and then the up and down are all very clearly labeled, so you're never confused while you're riding. It's also really easy to save or discard a ride by hitting that top right button. The main riding screen is also easy to read. You can customize the displays and the layouts and even rearrange the pages as you like. There's a dedicated radar page, which is pretty cool too. So you get a nice big black bar on the left, which makes sure you actually see the radar. You lose the colors because obviously it's black and white, but it is a nice detail. And again, we really like the fact that you just jump to the home screen, see the battery status instantaneously. As far as navigation on this, it's pretty limited. So again, it's a breadcrumb view. So you just see an overlay, no actual street names. You just get a left and right. So if you're going somewhere complicated, it's very easy to miss a turn. And this is not the computer we recommend. But it is a pretty nice feature to have. So if you're somewhere more rural with limited turns, this can get you around. You don't have any rerouting, but it will help you, at least by saying it's off route, and give you at least an overlay. So using GPS, you can kind of find your way back. The overall design of the computer is also very intuitive. You can see the distance to home, and even the default page settings are nice. We would have liked to see a radial display in addition to the current data fields, but otherwise you get all the options you'd ever need, everything from power meters and every sensor you'd want, like electronic shifting. So it's overall pretty nicely designed and impressive at such a low price point. Now let's do a comparison between the COOSPO CS500 and other computers on the market. Here we actually have the COOSPO CS300. You can see the big difference here with the screens. This one you actually have a pixelated but higher resolution screen than this predefined one. So with these more budget computers, you can see everything's laid out in a grid and you can only really change some labels. So very limited user interface. You can't display a map. You can't do anything more adaptive like that. Everything is just kind of predefined, and that makes some of the menus quite confusing. So even the configuration menus, you're limited to just basic displays. But otherwise very similar design, but with the COOSPO CS500 obviously get more features. Other budget computers like the Shannon Max 30 offer a bigger screen. So it's a little bit larger, bigger font size, but again, predefined grid. So you really can't change anything. The numbers will change and then the labels will move left to right, but obviously no map view, no navigation views. At the higher end, you get a lot more options. You get color touchscreens. Here we have the Magine C606. And you can see with this one, it's full color touchscreen. The user interface on it isn't quite as nice. So it's a little bit more convoluted as far as what you see, but you do get a full map view. Well, this one is more of a kind of a basic navigation view that shows you your route. This one you actually get roads, all the labels, and then you have a zoomable map. But you do have gestures, which you want with the touchscreen. Well, this one is simple buttons that are easy to use. And then if you go even higher end, we have the Brighton S800, so you can see much larger. So over 3 inches in size, big color touchscreen, and you can see you actually have a nice map view, so high resolution, and then a lot of nice graphics. So you have radial displays, and with the color you get more information, so it's easier to read. And with a radar display, you actually get the colored radar display, so high speed or low speed with the green all clear, which is nice. But again, with the COOSPO being under $100, it's really impressive to get all these features. We also have the IGP Sport BSC 300, which also has navigation, but you only get that on the higher end models. And with this one, you can see it is a non-touchscreen, but it has a similar button layout. So up, down, return, the lap, play, it's almost identical. Very similar in size, but the COOSPO just undercuts it in terms of the price. And again, gives you navigation where you don't typically get at this price point. Now let's take a look at the COOSPO app. So with this app, you can connect to the device and do a lot of these settings and configuration. So I have the Android app here. There's 4 tabs on the bottom. You have activity, cycling, devices, and more. Under activity, you have a nice summary of your current rides that you've done recently. Under each one, you can get a nice map view so you can see exactly where you went. Nice interactivity. And then under charts, you can actually see a little bit of overlays for different metrics, slope, temperature. It's not quite as good as Strava, so obviously you'd want to use that if you want to get more into your metrics and analysis, but it's a pretty nice overview of what you've basically done. Under cycling, you get a little computer view. So here you can actually set up a ride. Under devices, this is where you can actually connect to the computer. So under here, you can do the data syncing. So you can see it's uploaded all the rides we've had stored on the computer. You can do firmware updates. So you can see I'm already at the latest version. You can send a course to device, so if you have routes that you can create on here or import. So if I go to plus, I can import if it's a GPX file, or I can generate one from a previous route. It's pretty limited, so you do want to be careful with how complicated you get, and you only get a breadcrumb view on your navigation, so if it's a complicated course, this is probably not the computer to use it with. And then the more important thing is page settings. So this is pretty nice. You get a nice graphical view of the different pages. You see every single page you have, and then within them, you can go modify each field. So the UI is not that great. It's a little bit confusing, but you go to the page layout. This is where you can change the number of fields and the general layout. Under page and fields, that's where you can actually edit it. And there's a little icon in the corner, which is easy to miss, with a check mark that indicates which one you're editing. Even though it's only a $90 computer, you get a lot of the basic options you'd want. So speed, you get all the lap metrics, maximum speed, average speed, lap time, total time, distance, heart rate, cadence, power, And under power, you even get the 30-second, 10-second averaging and different metrics you might want. So even torque effect, pedal smooth, so pretty cool. What's limited here is you can see as far as the graphical representations. So under graph, there's speed diagram, which is a little bit confusing. It's not diagrams, just 3 texts. The curve will actually show, I think, a little bar graph behind it. And then you can do CAD and other ones. You don't get the nice radial curve or colors because it's obviously black and white. So pretty limited, and the graphics are limited. But it's nice, at least you can do some of these modifications. Page management will let you actually rotate the pages. So if you don't want lap page, you can remove that, or you can reorder them as needed. When you're done, you can press save. And again, this is a smaller company, so some of the icons and graphics aren't that great, like the save icon. It's actually obscured by a little dot. The prompts are very basic. But once you press save, it should show up here. So if you go to your main screens, you should see that update. It's a pretty simple setup, and you can even add that radar screen that I have here under that page setting. There's auto function options, auto pause, pause speed, the limit on there, auto lap, page turning, alert settings. You can set things if you go over speed, cadence, power, heart rate, and then basic GPS settings. So you can change how many of the satellite systems you're actually using, so depending on which country you're in. Then otherwise, you can access all the other settings. So everything else you can do here, sounds, units. And pretty easy to use. Again, simple setup, and they're a smaller company, but it's still pretty intuitive and nothing too glaring on here. Once you're done, you're pretty much saved. And then you can also go to the more option, and this is where you can do the app authorization. So you can connect this to Strava or Training Peaks, so you can upload your routes directly there and do more analysis, which is a nice feature. Now let's go over the pros and cons of the COOSPO CS500. What we like about it is you have long battery life. You don't really have to charge this very often. And because it's black and white and non-touchscreen, it seems to last a long time. You also have a highly customizable data display with full sensor support, so you can do power meters, lap time, and even electronic shifting. And the most surprising thing of all is that the fact that you get navigation. It is a breadcrumb view, so you don't get street names or map overlay, but still very surprising to see at the sub $100 price point. The main negative with the computer is the fact that it doesn't lack radial data display option. You just have the curves or standard data fields. It would have been really nice to see that radial option. Taking everything into account, we'd give the CS500 a 9.2 out of 10. It's a great navigational GPS computer on a budget. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us at our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclists. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.